Interesting, everything that was told were by women. And everything that I broke was due to men in my life.
It takes a village to keep an entrepreneur sane.
What's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the word power?
Responsibility.
The Indian government.
I love it.
I think gender stereotype is still prevalent. However, I think whoever is trying to break it, we need to bring them to visibility.
Stereotypes are also designed by men because they are the ones who've historically had a voice to basically share their opinions much more at large than women.
Women are so ambitious, and that ambition should, accepted by the world.
I wanted to be a semiconductor physicist, which is as far away from my current profession as you can imagine.
I wanted to be a housewife.
What is one leadership lesson that you've learned that's unique to being a female leader?
When women's achievements are discussed, they are discussed as women's achievements, not just as achievements.
What do millennials and Gen Z get wrong about your generation?
What is it about our generation that really troubled you?
We care about our health. So a lot of us look younger than we are.
Lego, building objects and bunch of Lego pieces, and we can build the future of leadership, what the future of leadership looks for women together.
It was a constant battle to showcase yourself that you are at par to what is expected in a man's world. So I come from a generation where I broke the myths and I had to step forward and say, this is how I want to show myself.
Sports is usually a man's world.
When I had my pregnancy and delivery, I was told that I'm not supposed to express pain, labor pain.
This or that, respect or likability,
Respect.
mentorship or self-taught resilience.
Gen Z are distracted by screens.
Gen Z lacks ambition. I don't think so. Can I just share this to say that I don't believe?
Yeah.
Perhaps the future isn't about one generation leading. It's about several generations coming together to design the future of leadership.
Hi, I'm Vijayashree Parameshwaran, and this is the CEO Effect podcast. Today's episode is being planned a bit different because I had a very young girl, a 10th grade student from Vidyashil, who has watched all our episodes and got inspired and came to me and said, Shri, all this is great, but I have a lot of questions to ask. And I want to ask them to you in one of your episodes. And so here we are. And I thought it was good to bring in more women from different generations. So I have Aditi here, who's the CEO of Pocket Aces. I have Ahika. I would like to introduce her as a person who is being shaped up for a leadership position for the Chief Strategy Officer of Company Store and Hourglass Essentials. And then we have Smriti, a 10th grade Vidyashil student who is going to represent the future of women and future of women in leadership, asking us the questions. And we are going to do our best to share our wisdom.
Thank you so much for this, Shri. Thank you so much for having me here today. They say that the future of leadership is female. But as a Gen Z woman looking at the world, I have a few questions. I'm Smriti Kaushik, and I'm here today amongst three powerhouse women who've helped pave the path that my generation now walks on. I'm not here to take notes on how leadership worked in the past. I'm here to question whether the system that you guys built is fit for the future that we're stepping into. This is not a mentorship session. This is a roundtable. This is the CEO Effect.
Very nice.
Thank you. I'd like to start by asking a few questions regarding gender bias, if that's okay. To start with, what are a couple of gender stereotypes that still exist today, and how do you tackle them?
I feel like gender stereotypes have always existed and still do exist, and the same ones that existed before still exist today. But when we talk about tackling them, it's important that we as women are just like, we know that these stereotypes exist, but we still try to break them in whatever ways that we can. And a personal anecdote I would say would be that I've always been very tomboyish, I guess, growing up. And so breaking those stereotypes in those ways where, you just didn't dress as much as like a girl that people expected and all of those things were also breaking the stereotypes a little bit along the way. So I think the stereotypes will always exist. And I feel like, you know, us as women just need to kind of like know them, put them to the side, and then keep doing what we do.
So true. What's your take, Aditi?
My take on stereotypes is they exist because at some point they were true, right? But the problem is that they are burdened on to people even today. So I think the biggest stereotype is that women are very emotional and they get into high octane emotional very quickly. The part I'm doing to address this is really learning how to regulate myself, what I say, and learning how to respond instead of react. So that's, you know, the part that I'm doing. In my case, the stereotype was true initially when I started my career. And hopefully I've addressed this by being more conscious about it and by, you know, pausing to think about things before I say them.
What about you, Shri? What do you think?
I think gender stereotype is still prevalent. However, I think whoever is trying to break it, we need to bring them to visibility. And the more we bring them to visibility and showcase them and the awareness, especially all the smaller towns, tier 2 cities, villages, they need to, you know, get the visibility of what's the barriers that are being broken so that we can help women there to cross and come out. I talk to a lot of children who come and ask me, I want to be in forensic, like a girl child. And she has been told that forensic is for guys, right? Like I wanted to be a racer. I was not allowed. Though I was allowed to drive vehicle, I was not allowed to, you know, pursue that as a career. So it still prevails, and I'm surprised that during our conversation, you had a football incident, and you said, you know, there was you sensed a gender bias in that scenario, and I'm surprised that it's even prevalent at that level. I was hoping that we are breaking it, and yeah, that's the effort we are all putting together now. Small steps, one step.
Can I talk about one more stereotype, which I think stems from differential abilities? So the thing is, just like history is written by white men, stereotypes are also designed by men because they are the ones who've historically had a voice to basically share their opinions much more at large than women. So one of the biggest stereotypes about women is that they give much more priority to personal life and their family than they give to work. Now, the truth actually is that women are amazing at multitasking and multi-prioritizing. So women can give much more priority to home and family while giving equal priority to work. Men just choose one or the other because their brain is wired that way. Usually, the male psychology says that they can do one thing at a time, right? And so that's why they assume that we can also do one thing at a time. And so if you see women being like, you know, thinking of 10 tasks at the same time, for us, it comes very naturally. So they just assume that, oh, if we are paying attention at home, then we must not be paying attention at work because that our source of energy is finite. But actually, our source of energy is somewhere very infinite. And I think that's a huge difference between the way men and women operate. And they just cannot understand it because they've never experienced it. I think they just have to believe it because we said so.
You're right. Actually, multitasking comes a lot easier to us because we happen to handle stress better than men because we have thicker dendrites near our spine through evolution. And that actually, because you know how when women give birth, they need to be able to handle stress better, right? So we have thicker dendrites and that helps us be calmer at like high pressure situations. And that's something that a lot of people let slide, especially when they're talking about why men should be empowered in comparison to women, when they don't realize that biologically we're actually meant to be better at a stressful position than men are, especially in like leadership positions.
It's funny, right? People think that women become more aggressive or go into higher emotional territory because our voices are higher pitched by design. When it's a singer, they love a higher pitched female voice. But when it's a co-worker, they criticize a higher pitched female voice. The double standards are insane. And so if you see how we are evolving, just see how the three of us sound. We have much huskier voices.
Exactly.
so
It's
exactly.
a very
And that-
subconscious evolution that is happening because
Exactly.
we have to be accepted. We have to speak like them. We have to
Yeah.
dress like them.
Yeah.
It's really, we are subconsciously trying to fit in biologically also.
Exactly. And even that's frowned upon. Like, I have a much huskier voice than most girls, and I pride myself on it
I
personally.
love it. Yeah.
Thank you. But a lot of
It's
people seem
sexy.
to have an thank you. A lot of people seem to have an issue with it, especially guys. Guys who happen to be my friends, and they're like, okay, Smriti, but you sound like a man. But that is something that isn't necessarily an insult to me, because if I sound like a man, then at least I'll be taken seriously, right?
Yeah.
At least
You
my
should
opinion
say
will be
more
valued.
man than you.
Exactly. Oh, I'm going to use that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. The
Use-
best defense is offense.
Yes. More offense, yeah. So you spoke about, when we talk about stereotypes, you spoke about bringing them to light, right? And that like the next generation shouldn't be able to like face the same stereotypes that we're facing now. What is one particular stereotype that you believe that the next generation doesn't have to justify?
Having work and life. Yeah. I think, like you said, we're good at multitasking and we know how to do both. We don't have to just be at home. And that's, I mean, women are so ambitious, and that ambition should like be, accepted by the world.
Yeah. But it's interesting, Aika, that you're saying that in your generation. I thought we have broken that.
I don't know. I think it still exists in some ways. It's always going to, I think.
For me, the one myth I would like to break is there is a limit to what we can do. I think it's limitless. We should not be restricted in any way if we want to try and explore that this is what we want to try out, we want to do, this is a career I want to build, this is how I want to pave way for the future. I think we should be allowed.
I think the one stereotype that I think the future generation hopefully does not have to worry about anymore is being improper. I think women had to be so proper.
Prim and proper.
There was a leading brand a few years ago that had a campaign called Sit Improper, where they had a campaign where women were just like sitting like this. And it was okay to do that, sitting like this, sitting like this. And we have always been asked to sit like this. I think that finally, is at a place where it's broken. And hopefully today, people don't expect women to just be proper all the
Sit
time.
like this now. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the next generation, I myself have always wanted to be a lawyer, and that's the path that I'm going on. What was your dream job as a teenager, and how similar is it to your current profession?
I wanted to be a semiconductor physicist, which is as far away from my current profession as you can imagine. I think the things that fuel you and drive you are important at every stage, but like I kind of went with the flow. So again, like never pigeonhole myself into, oh, I'm an only left brain person, or oh, like I cannot do creativity, or oh, I have to only be in a place where I can earn a lot of money, or only be in a place where I can get fame. So I just kind of went with the flow, and so I've landed up in a different space where I was thinking I would land up.
I wanted to be a housewife. Yeah. And that's how I've been raised. I came from a family where both my father's side and mother's side, women have never worked, and they've all been housewives. And I've always been raised or thought that that's how I need to pursue. And I felt it was cool, not do anything. And even in the peer society, nobody was working. All of us were tuned to be housewives. And somewhere life circumstances exposed me to, explore a career. And then you discover, and you keep discovering.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we can do this and this. Oh, I can do this too. And it kept happening, and then you become unstoppable.
Yeah. I think for me, a precursor to this question is I just feel like it's so hard to choose what you want to do when you're 18 because there's so many options out there and you just never really know. But I think, growing up, I always looked up to what my mom did. She was, she was changing her career multiple times, but eventually she became an art therapist and, did counseling and things like that. So very much a people-driven profession. And then my dad, I didn't really have any idea what he used to do my whole life. And ended up, coming back, studying HR psychology, leadership, coming back and joining the company. And very far from obviously what I was thinking that I would end up doing. And it took me some time to fully adjust and get used to, okay, this is now my profession. But I think I'm in a place now where I'm like, okay, my worlds have merged. Like, it's like what I actually wanted to do with people and leadership and all of that. And my dad's business somehow has like collided, and now I'm somehow on the path of doing what I want. So it's really cool
It's beautiful.
to
Yeah,
see that.
beautiful.
But she, from a housewife to like one of the most high pressure companies in the world, which is Amazon, that is quite a journey. At some point, you have to tell us that story.
Oh, and it was a beautiful journey, and I truly enjoyed myself.
Amazing.
What is one leadership lesson that you've learned that's unique to being a female leader?
See, generally, all these leadership skills and competencies is common to all. What I loved, or my conversation, offline conversation with, which we had, and I want to share that, where Aditi said that we are born inclusive, with an inclusive mentality, which is so true. We are the ones who give birth to all the genders, right? So I'm sure that we are born inclusive, and we do demonstrate that. What I find challenging for women is that we have to fit into a man's world. So what we do is we try to imitate them, we try to be like them, and in the process, we leave what is beautiful and innate about us. So let's not forego that. Let's try to build our strengths, be unique as we are. And we are born with certain qualities. Let's be proud of it, showcase it, and bring out all the leadership that is required for the world, embracing ourselves.
Yeah, I think that, when men's achievements are discussed, they are discussed just as achievements. When women's achievements are discussed, they are discussed as women's achievements, not just as achievements, right? Even in a similar sector. So Alcaraz just won his career Grand Slam. So it was like, oh, he's the youngest one to have a career Grand Slam. But actually, that's not true, because there are two women who were younger when they completed their career Grand Slam, Serena Williams included. But it's like they are the women tennis players to win the career Grand Slam. Alcaraz is the tennis player to
It's
win
not the same.
a career Grand Slam. So I think that while we need to remind people that we have to be included in the overall stats, we don't have to keep separate stats only. I think that the way we remind people has to be more positive rather than victimize ourselves. Oh, you never include us in your stats. And I see many women leaders, of course, they've gone through difficult times. They've gone through a lot of gender bias. They've gone through investors ignoring them when their businesses are better than their male counterparts. But if you cry about it and if you self-victimize, actually, the men are designed to like victimize you even further. So I think it's a vicious cycle that we have to come out of. And I know it could sound harsh, but we do have to kind of stop complaining and start just positive reinforcement. If you see what's happened with the women's cricket team now, right?
Yeah.
That's the positive reinforcement.
But
And-
that's such a beautiful lesson, is just to stop victimizing ourselves, because then you're opening up the world to victimize you also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by victimizing yourself, you actually just make yourself seem smaller. And when we make ourselves seem smaller in comparison to men, we're just proving them right, aren't we?
Absolutely.
On that note, I would like to switch to the next question. This next question, I'm going to have 3 sub-questions for either of you. And again, we're going to be calling out a couple of stereotypes, okay? For Shri, your question is, what do millennials and Gen Z get wrong about your generation?
That we are more conservative, and we expect them to just follow what is being told or what we believed to be true, to be just followed without an explanation. Or today morning, I was having a conversation with my son, and when I asked him, what is it about our generation that really troubled you? He said, just forcing religion or beliefs about God that you had. Though it was not me, he was talking about the generation. And he said that it's very difficult to just understand what you have understood or gone through. We are in a very different ecosystem, and you trying to force fit it on us. So yeah, maybe that could be that we have been following what was being told to us, and we expect the next generation to just follow similarly. And when they question, then we feel, they are rebelling or they are not following or understanding, which is an interesting conversation I had. And yeah.
That's nice how just a simple conversation had so much impact on you, right? Okay, the next question is for Aditi. You're sandwiched between two generations, right? One that thinks you're too entitled and one that thinks you're too old school. What do you think? What's the truth?
I think millennials have it good, I would say. I think we were born in an age where we could have an analog childhood, but a digital college life. So we feel like digital natives, but we remember the analog stuff and we remember the smell of a book. And like till today, I think that's one of my favorite smells. Right? So I think that's one thing. We were born in an age where we could question religion. It was allowed, it was maybe not encouraged, but we could go out in the world and generate our own beliefs without too much discouragement. We were born in great financial times. I think that makes a huge difference because a lot of us got a lot of exposure by traveling outside of our hometowns. Because we were born in good financial times, we started earning in good financial times. I think it makes a humongous difference. And we care about our health. So a lot of us look younger than we are. And so I think we are absolutely blessed. So if people think we're entitled or people think we're whatever, I think it's okay because maybe we are some of those things and you can't generalize the whole generation. But I think we have the best of all worlds. We had the 90s, we had Backstreet Boys, we had Govinda, and we had A.R. Rahman. What more do you want?
Okay, Ahika, for you, what do other generations miss that your generation sees clearly or our generation sees clearly?
I think something that our generation sees clearly is, and this is obviously all you credit to the previous generations, is, work is not seen so much as a 9 to 5 or something that you have to really spend so much time on. But work is still important. Life is also important. And how do we do both those things together? And how do we make them, merge together in a way where we can live our lives more, fulfilling with more abundance and all of that? I think also we are, because maybe of the wars and everything that's happening right now, I think as much as there's digital transformation, there's also a little bit of like moving closer to people and the people that are close to you and saying that, okay, like these are the people that really matter and I want to build these beautiful relationships with them and I want to. So there is clarity and purpose while there is also confusion. So I think, yeah, I think we see life a little bit differently as previous generations did. We see it a little bit more of like a merged and more, fulfilling, I guess, life than.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And Smack, be it you or even my second son who's closer, who's the same age as yours, I'm seeing that the need to be more closer with the family, balance out the work, and somehow we have also evolved in such a way that we allow them to say, "Hey, do what you want to do," and they come with more values, principles, and how they want to structure, a family that eats together, stays together. That comes from my second son, and we follow that at home. So that that shift is happening where this beautifully you explain that work and life both matter and people matter. And I'm seeing that in you also, Smart. You
Yeah.
give a lot of time for our family outings, your family get-togethers. You do it all together instead of saying I want to just go with friends. And there's that beautiful balance you bring.
Thank you.
And I think it wouldn't be possible if,
Without other generations.
yeah, if we
without.
weren't allowed to do that, or if
Exactly.
we didn't have the opportunity to do that. But it's just that mix of things that allows us to be who we are, still live in this world which is crazy, but live with some kind of purpose. Yeah.
I think this discussion proved that stereotypes collapse when real dialogue begins, right? But understanding perspectives is one thing, and looking at the future the same way together is a whole other. So, on that note, the next thing that I want to do is something quite different from what we've been doing so far. I was thinking that we could build the future of leadership together instead of just describe it. So, we will be, all the four of us will be participating in this. We will have a bunch of Lego building objects and a bunch of Lego pieces, and we can build the future of leadership, what the future of leadership looks for women together.
That's super exciting.
Wow, that's quite unique.
So let's get into it. Now that we've finished building our Lego models, I would love to hear from you guys about what you've built. Shri, you can go first.
Okay. So, women in leadership in the future, I foresee that the role we play in the ecosystem of winning trophies, building corporates, the new era of robotics, AI, abundance, sustainability, the most important factor would be to hold the community, hold the humanity, hold the community, and achieve a more larger vision and purpose for ourselves on holding ourselves together as a community. And each one I have represented with different hats, representing different versions of ourselves, doing, and there is no limit to the field that we will be in. That's why I put different hats and different colors and different, like, somebody holding the flag, somebody not happy but still thinking differently, somebody with a clear head, somebody with a wizard, somebody who's the protecting, shielding. I couldn't get women figures in the Lego, it was all male. So now we have to assume this is all women, but we are holding everybody, of course, into the ecosystem and aiming towards a larger purpose.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I love how you represented harmony even in the future, especially amongst women leaders. Do you want to go ahead and explain yours, Aditi?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I think women in leadership is very much defined by the environment we live in and what we are going to do with that environment in the future. So right now in our existence, we are in a very gray zone, as you can see over here. There's a lot of plastic everywhere. There are, these are skulls under these nets, which represent restraint. It represents fascism, which is currently happening. And there are very, very few women leaders who are able to govern the state of the world right now. And this is where we are at. If you see and if you follow the arrow, what I've represented is this is the equity model where the woman is given a higher ground or to start with so that she can actually make up for lost time. And, the man is given a lower ground to start with so that eventually they can get to, being equal. Once they're equal, they can really speed up towards a bigger future. I think one of the biggest things for me personally is that we have to stop believing that as a species, we are superior to other species that we live with. And I think women are very, very capable of actually achieving that equilibrium compared to men. So here I have a horse in a little boat, which kind of for me represents a seahorse. And seahorses are important because it's the only species where male can bear children. And I think that's one of the biggest advancements that I hope we can make in medical science to bring the equality that we need. And I hope we can start looking at animals as children as well. For me personally, that's a big thing, and we can coexist with the animals that we eat from and sustain with. And if this happens, then in the future, I think we lead to a beautiful world where profit grows in line with sustainability for plants, for animals, and for sea life. So I think if women are leading and we're in a world where women and men are truly regarded as equal, and we're in a world of Ardhanareshwars where feminine and masculine energies are together harnessed, we will lead to this beautiful state of the world, which for me is the heaven on earth, basically.
Wow, something that really stood out to me was about how you made the female figure at like a higher position than the man's to make up for lost time. I really like that. And on that note, I noticed that your soldier is on an elevated space. Why don't you go ahead and explain yours to us?
Sure. So when I think of women leaders in the future, I think of them sort of leaving behind the skeletons in the closet, which may be like a lot of fight and a lot of, these weapons that hopefully we don't need anymore going into the future because, you know, these women have the wisdom of, the previous generation of women that have fought for what we have right now. And so with that wisdom, the new tools that we carry are, shovel and a magnifying glass and a telephone, because those are the things that we as women are really good at. And then also all these gems just represent, empathy and the feminine energies that we bring to leadership that will take us very far. And yeah, I think that's going to bring evergreen leadership to the table. And so that's my model.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you.
So my model is basically a female leader in action in the future. You can say that this is an outdoor space to represent that leadership in the future will include not being restricted amongst four walls. So this way they can all speak freely, and you can all see that they're all laid back and none of them are questioning her role as a leader, even though she's the only woman here amongst all men. I mean, that's what I was trying to represent. This is something that I just hope for in the future, where our leadership isn't questioned. And there are so many things that we could bring to the table, like all the creativity incentives that she loves. You can also notice that they're all wearing different clothes. There's no unity in like clothing because more than unity or uniformity, it's about being creative and having like freedom of expression. And I think that's something that she, as a woman, brings to the table. So
That's lovely. I really love the laid back. That's a very cute touch.
I tried to make him look more laid back, but he was falling off. So perhaps the future isn't about one generation leading. It's about several generations coming together to design the future of leadership. Let's move on to the rapid fire round. I have a couple of one-liner questions I'm really excited to get your perspectives on. To start with, have you ever felt that you need to be twice as good to be taken seriously?
No, because I think it's in our own minds, and I've never let myself feel that way.
Absolutely. It was a constant battle to showcase yourself that you are at par to what is expected in a man's world. So I come from a generation where I broke the myths and I had to step forward and say, this is how I want to show myself. And it was not easy. And what is not easier, Smack, is I usually ask these questions rapid fire, and I can see how exhausting it is to sit here and answer these.
That really is inspiring, though. What about you, Ahika?
I think for me, because I was good at sports, I haven't felt that so much. Because sports is usually a man's world. And I think because I was a little bit better at that, I haven't felt like I had to be twice good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the best advice that you've been given that you're glad you ignored?
That I have to change my inherent personality to be liked.
Okay. Wow. And you, Shri?
That women have to show themselves in a certain way and you cannot express emotions. I'll quote something. When I had my pregnancy and delivery, I was told that I'm not supposed to express pain, labor pain. Yeah, I was told that women in our family just go through it silently and you're not supposed to express pain. And it took me many years to break it and say, I am feeling emotion, I feel this way, and this is something I'm going through. It took me a long time to express. It was not easy.
Was it a man who told you this or a woman
No.
herself?
Interesting, everything that was told were by women. And everything that I broke was due to men in my life.
What about you, Hika?
Don't be so emotional.
Okay.
That's definitely something that I've ignored completely and I think honed into a lot more.
Awesome. Your next question is one habit that every young leader should start building today. Go ahead.
Don't be ambivalent about your own success and what you need to get there.
Okay. Shri?
Reflect, introspection, understand yourself. There's a lot that your mind keeps generating thoughts and, keeps telling you many things. But sit with it, introspect, reflect, go to your inner self and understand who you truly are. And that is definitely a habit you have to build.
Awesome. And you?
I think mine would be patience. I feel like everything's so fast paced now, and I'm speaking like for myself also, but just learning how to pause and like be a little bit patient about, even achieving things or yeah, I think we just like are always striving for so much and we just need to slow down sometimes.
Awesome. Okay, now we will move on to the this or that questions. So how this round basically works is I will give you two options and you will tell me which one that you think is better. And you can all answer in unison, by the way. Also, one more thing, feel free to like tell me how you really feel, okay? Like feel free to put all the emotion in your answers, okay? This or that, respect or likability?
Respect.
Respect.
Vision or execution?
Vision.
Vision has to be backed by execution, otherwise it'll never come to light.
Yeah, I second that. It's a polarity you have to hold together.
Bold or calculated moves?
Bold, otherwise we wouldn't be entrepreneurs.
Bold, definitely.
AI as a collaborator or AI as a threat?
Collaborator, anything.
Mentorship or self-taught resilience?
Mentorship.
We're sitting with our mentors.
Yeah. You need all the help you can get to be sane as you move forward and cut through the noise.
Okay. Control or trust?
Trust.
Trust.
Discipline or motivation?
Discipline.
Say you need both.
I would also say you need both.
I would say motivation can run out. The thing that keeps the motivation going is the discipline.
Okay. Self-reliance or strong support systems?
Strong support systems.
Strong support systems.
I feel both are needed.
Especially at a time like yours, self-reliance is very
Yeah.
important.
I feel that strong support systems in terms of help at home, parents, spouse, friends, colleagues, coaches, and yourself, it takes a village to keep an entrepreneur sane.
Awesome. I like that. I like how you twisted that phrase. What the next question, the last question actually, is really dear to me in my generation because something a trend that's going on right now is about evolving privately. It's about working on yourself privately and then showing up instead of telling people about your progress. So my next question is evolve privately or transform publicly?
I would say evolve privately.
For me, if you evolve privately or evolve privately, you will ultimately impact the public.
Yeah,
Right?
agree.
You will transform everything around you public. So maybe, evolve privately, which is lead to transforming.
I think, so this is true. I'm seeing this a lot on social media now, that keep your plans private and this and that. And I think in our generation, that was also like nazar lag jayegi, so don't tell anyone. But I think that when you tell your friends and family about your plans, they also hold you accountable. So it's always kind of helped me to share in a closed circuit where I want to get. And then I can also share the burden of getting there and the entire journey that takes.
Okay. My next segment is going to be first reaction. So basically, I am going to be giving you a sentence, and you will give me the first word or the first emotion that comes to your mind. Okay. To start with, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the word power?
Responsibility.
The Indian government. I don't know.
I love it.
I don't know, but for me, it's like distribute.
Okay.
That's
Like
what comes to-
delegate,
Yeah, that's what comes to my mind.
That says a lot.
decentralized. Yeah.
One emotion you've learned to regulate as a leader.
Anger.
Anger.
Yeah, I would say irritation.
Just we say as we clutch our cup and
Okay, leadership today, more humane or more demanding?
demanding.
From what the work of, we do or I do, I'm seeing that people are sincerely putting an attempt to be empathetic and compassionate. The work is demanding and they are also trying to transform themselves because we are moving from a heroic to a post-heroic culture consciously. The world is also moving there. So there is a sincere effort that is put and I want to acknowledge that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I do like seeing leaders that are leading with compassion now, but I think it is demanding, especially when you have a lot like people around you that you're influencing. I think it is a demanding role. Yeah.
This concludes the rapid fire round. I loved all of your opinions and all of your perceptions.
I'm actually surprised we were all pretty rapid.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next round is myth busting. I'm going to let you guys pull out a chit and you are going to tell me whether it's a myth or whether it's the truth. Okay?
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So it says, being digital natives, Gen Z don't need tech guidance. I think that's definitely a myth. I mean, with so much technology right now, I mean, I need it. And I'm sure that, like, as technology becomes a lot more part of our lives and part of every day, then we're going to need, you know, ways to use it. I mean, sometimes already we're seeing how AI is being used for, so many personal things, which feel like there's a fine line to how much you rely on technology for your support also.
And AI is evolving faster and quicker day by
yeah,
day.
and we can't keep up
Yeah.
unless we have guidance. So, yeah.
You're right. That's a really important knowledge. Yep. You can pick yours too.
Gen Z expects success instantly. I'm just looking at all the Gen Zs I have worked with. Actually, they are more questioning what is happening around them rather than worrying about success instantly. They would like to understand what's happening, why they are doing what they are doing, what is making people expect what they are expecting, what is the purpose. They want clarity. And I don't see me working with any Gen Z telling or showing that they want success instantly. But maybe they are trying to define success in a rational way or understandable way that makes sense to them and meaningful to them.
That's very true. I think Ahika could also say as a Gen Z that
Yeah,
is,
I mean, I think in one way I would maybe disagree a little bit with you because I feel like just because of how much we see other people on social media and this and that, there is that pressure to maybe succeed. I mean, there's a lot of younger people that are doing really well, right? And that brings this pressure. And I think I felt it too. I do also agree with the fact that there's curiosity as to like, what's the purpose? Why are we doing what we're doing?
And like, thanks for bringing that between you and me. There has been a lot of discussion on why are we doing what we are doing.
Yeah.
Right? You wanted to understand before you hit the success. And I also want to bring a beautiful story here. Being a second gen entrepreneur, she has the ability to say that, hey, this is our business, our family business, and I want to run the show because she has all the entire setup is set for her to take that. But she was one person who came and told me that, Shri, no, I do not want to take the CEO. And I have a person who has worked hard for that. I want that person to be the CEO. And I would prefer to be focusing on the strategy and setting this up for success. Why is it that I have to be a CEO to run this? not
That's
just
amazing
you. Yeah.
security.
Yes. And that's a beautiful explanation that, oh, I don't want to be in that CEO, be in the limelight. I want to be, shiny mid. I want to take it slow. I want to set it up. I want to understand everything. Let me get this right.
Yeah,
And also acknowledging somebody else's efforts who's probably been in the organization for many years and, can do the job.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that person's efforts and, not, that's beautiful.
Again, more than pleasure, I think it's drive to succeed. I mean, if
Yes.
you really want to be there.
With clarity, right?
Yeah, exactly, with clarity.
Okay, myth or not, Gen Z are entitled job hoppers. The thing is that some are, but I think some millennials were too. I do feel that a lot of young people think that they have learned everything within like 6 months in an organization. And I don't know whether the organization needs to do things differently or how they need to think differently about what more they can learn. But if you ask me to like hand to heart pick yes or no, I would say yes to this.
Okay.
They are little entitled job hoppers.
So you would say that's a truth then?
Yeah, they also jump for very little money.
Okay, but do you think this is a Gen Z thing?
I think we are seeing more of it now because many Gen Zs are not very worried about climbing the corporate ladder, which takes time, right? To become a manager and then lead, etc. Takes time in an organization. They're happy to just laterally, kind of be in similar roles. I am seeing this. This is not true for high performers, but it is more true than it was for my peer set.
Okay.
I have no opportunity to job hop. But Smriti, I'm curious about what you think about this question.
I being in school, we don't have that opportunity, but I would say, I mean, at least the people that I'm surrounded by, they're very determined to finish a certain task. My friends and my social group, when we're in like a group project or they've given us assigned a certain task to us, they're all very determined to finish it. They have that drive in them. I think it's something that we share in common, and they don't want to do anything else until we finish that certain task. So that's what I've been surrounded by, which is why I was
No, which is
shocked when
great.
you
And
said
I
it.
think the problem is that tasks or projects in an organization only last that long, right?
Yeah.
Only maybe in research organizations do you have projects lasting multiple years. Otherwise, projects last 3 months, 6 months. And I think that one of the things is that the younger people are very focused on what the org is doing for them. I think we were very focused on what we are contributing to the org, and hence will get a better position in the org. So I think the perspective is different. I don't think it's right or wrong. It's just different.
I'm gonna read the next one. Gen Z are overly sensitive to feedback. I think this is a myth. I don't think we're overly sensitive to feedback, at least like the ones who are still in school. I think that when we get feedback, I will say that a lot of people are aggressive about it. Like they believe that what they're doing is right, especially something I've noticed in my generation and amongst my peers. But they do take feedback seriously. They might argue or defend themselves in the beginning, but they will go back home and think about it. You will think that with the way they're like coming back at you, that you haven't made an impact on them or that your opinion hasn't actually registered in their mind, but it's registered much more than you think, because they will go home and think about it the entire day. They will be mulling over it and analyzing it and like picking out every single word that you said, thinking about how
That's
it's
called sensitivity.
Yes, but not sensitive. Okay, but sensitive in the way that like emotionally sensitive, that I wouldn't agree. They're very obsessive about it, if that makes more sense, more than sensitive.
For me, some reason I feel it's across every generation.
I was
just
going to
say,
say,
I don't think it's
every
generation.
human is
yeah.
sensitive about feedback, but
Yeah.
some are just, I think the obsessive nature is actually, as you rightly pointed out, the difference.
Yeah, I think we're
But
getting more
otherwise,
nitpicky
every
about
human
it.
is sensitive about
Until
feedback.
you know how feedback can actually help,
Yeah.
I think everybody's bad at it. And especially in our Indian culture, I feel like we just don't really know what feedback is.
Yeah, because in the upbringing, you're just taught to like accept and move on.
We are not taught. We have been
Yeah.
told to accept
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
move on.
you're basically
Yeah,
told
we are not
to
even
accept
taught.
and move on. Exactly.
Gen Z are distracted by screens. Yes, 100%. I don't even think we need to debate this,
don't think
but
there's
I
much
think
more to learn.
100%. Yeah.
But today, I think everyone is distracted by
Exactly.
screens. Even my dad is
Even my
distracted
mom,
by
yes.
screens. Yes.
Yeah, mom scrolling Instagram.
Facebook and
Reels.
Facebook
I mean,
shorts.
the dopamine hit is the same for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Gen Z lacks ambition. I don't think so. I mean, no, I haven't seen this. I think I do not agree with this myth. They have ambition. Yeah. Can I just share this to say that I don't believe in this?
Yeah.
Gen Z is lazy. No, not particularly. I think people are lazy and they can be anywhere. So, yeah.
Awesome. I came into this conversation carrying questions, wondering whether stereotypes are something that my generation just has to simply endure or something that we can challenge. But listening to you guys, I've understood that women rising to the top isn't what the effect is. The effect is having the ability to define what the top even means. Thank you, Aditi, Shri, and Ahika, for all the thoughts that you shared today and for having me on this show.
Thank you. Thank you, Smack. It was wonderful. Those questions were very powerful, very insightful. And I think it also made us think a lot.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot
Yeah.
from hearing all of you speak and you as well. So thank you so much.
I had the best time, and I think you're such a good host. So thank you for being here.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe host and not lawyer.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all of your opinions. I feel like that's really going to shape me growing up, especially learning from 3 different generations, which is what this whole podcast really was about. Well, I am Smriti Kaushik, and this is the Shio Effect.